Hi. Today, let's talk about something really important in aviation. What happens when pressurization fails during a flight? Well, it's a scenario that can sound scary, but understanding it can really help us appreciate the safety measures in place. When a plane climbs to cruising altitude, let's say 35,000 feet, 37,000 feet, or 39,000 feet, for example, the cabin is pressurized to keep passengers comfortable and safe. But if that pressurization fails, it can lead to serious issues, like a rapid drop in oxygen levels. Pilots and crew, they have protocols and procedures in place to handle these situations. But it's fascinating and a bit intense also to explore what really goes on. So are we ready to dig in? Let's start. So to start pressurization, we first need to grasp the concept of pressure. You've heard of gravity. It's a force pulling us towards the earth. But what's often overlooked or we don't even think about is the pressure exerted by the atmosphere on us. For example, when you're enjoying a walk, let's say on the beach, you might not realize that you are carrying nearly 960 kilograms of air pressure on your head. Sounds surprising, right? Let's break it down. See, at sea level, atmospheric pressure is approximately 14.7 psi. That's pounds per square inch. Now this translates to about 6.67 kgs per square inch. Just convert pounds to kgs. Now, if you consider a person's head covering roughly 1 square foot, which is about 144 square inches, we can calculate the pressure. When we multiply 6.67 kgs by 144 square inches, it comes out to be about 960 kgs of air pressure resting on your head. It's pretty fascinating to think about that invisible weight we are constantly under. So we have two main forces at play. One, atmospheric pressure all around us, and secondly, gravity, which is pulling us down. You might think why we don't feel the weight of that 960 kgs of air pressure or the pull of gravity. It's really fascinating how these forces are balanced in our environment. The universe has a way of equalizing these forces in such a way so that we can go about living our lives without feeling these forces. Think about it like this. When someone falls from the sky, they experience an increasing downward force due to gravity. As one keeps falling, the weight and the speed of the person keeps increasing. But now, when this person deploys a parachute, when he opens a parachute, then a new upward force comes into play. So now there are two forces acting on this person. One pushing him down and one pulling him up. And the result is a controlled descent, allowing the person to land safely. Now just imagine if the upward force, upward pressure is equal to the downward pressure, the person will stay there, will not feel anything. So similarly, the atmospheric pressure around us is counterbalanced by the pressure inside our bodies and outside our bodies. So this balance means we don't feel the immense pressure which is acting on us. And our bodies adapt to this environment so seamlessly that we can just live our lives without even thinking about it. It's so remarkable, isn't it? So returning to the topic of pressure around us, we now recognize that atmospheric pressure acts on our planet, influencing everyone, everything, and everywhere. However, as we ascend or climb higher from sea level, this pressure begins to decrease. Why does this happen? It's because the atmosphere above us becomes less dense, leading to a reduction in atmospheric pressure. The atmosphere envelopes the Earth in such a way that it is most dense in the immediate vicinity of the surface of the Earth, specifically in a layer known as troposphere, which extends up to about 15 kilometers from Earth's surface. The entire atmosphere is divided into several layers. The closest layer to the Earth's surface is the troposphere, followed by the stratosphere, which extends about 30 kilometers above troposphere, making a total of approximately 45 kilometers from the Earth's surface. Above that is the mesosphere, thermosphere, and finally the exosphere. This atmosphere ends at around 10,000 kilometers from the Earth's surface, meaning that beyond this point, there is no atmospheric pressure. That's marking the beginning of space. So now we have a clear understanding that there is a phenomenon called pressure on Earth, which decreases as we ascend, as we climb. At sea level, atmospheric pressure is 14.7 psi. As we reach about 10,000 feet, this pressure drops to around 10 psi. And by the time we get to 40,000 feet, it further decreases to about 2.5 psi. Now this reduction in pressure continues as we go even higher. We are accustomed to breathing at 14.7 psi at sea level, and our organs, particularly our lungs, are adapted to inhale oxygen at this pressure at sea level. Or wherever we stay at that pressure, we get accustomed to breathing. And therefore, when we visit high altitude places like Leh in India, which is situated at about 10,000 feet, we often struggle to breathe. And this difficulty arises for two main reasons. First, the quantity of oxygen available at that altitude is significantly lower. And second, the decreased pressure makes it harder for oxygen to enter our lungs effectively. So we've understood that when the pressure decreases, it becomes harder to breathe. And this is the main challenge as we climb to a higher altitude. However, if we can somehow maintain the pressure at a level that our bodies are used to, then we can go higher without an issue. As long as the pressure is kept at a stable, acceptable value, we remain comfortable and can handle greater altitudes without difficulty. But how this pressure is maintained inside the cabin? Well, let's dig in. First of all, the structure of the aircraft, including its doors and windows, is designed to withstand a certain maximum differential pressure. This is crucial for maintaining structural integrity. If the differential pressure exceeds the design limits, it could lead to a structural failure. What is differential pressure? When an aircraft is sealed at sea level, meaning its doors are closed, it maintains an internal pressure of about 14.7 psi, which is the normal pressure outside. However, as the aircraft climbs, the external atmospheric pressure drops. If the aircraft remains sealed and doesn't adjust its internal pressure, a significant pressure differential will develop between inside of the cabin and outside of the cabin. So to understand it, when both the inside and outside pressures are 14.7 psi, the differential pressure is zero, meaning there is no pressure difference acting on the aircraft structure. As the aircraft climbs and outside pressure drops to, let's say, 12 psi, the differential pressure becomes 14.7 psi, which is inside, and minus 12 psi, which is outside. For example, is equal to 2.7 psi. So this differential pressure exerts force on the aircraft structure, which it needs to withstand. If the differential pressure continues to increase beyond the aircraft's design limits, it can lead to a dangerous situation. Each aircraft is engineered to withstand a specific maximum differential pressure, typically around 8.65 psi or so, depending on the design. To release excess pressure, the aircraft needs an opening, which is accomplished by a component called outflow valve. Now, this valve is a part of aircraft structure and regulates the release of excess cabin pressure by opening and closing as needed. When the aircraft climbs or descends, the outflow valve automatically closes and opens to release some of the internal pressure, allowing it to adjust to a safe and comfortable level. It continuously operates throughout the flight to maintain a comfortable and safe cabin pressure for passengers and crew. This process is crucial for maintaining structural integrity and ensuring passenger comfort. The cabin pressure is typically maintained at a level equivalent to an altitude of 5,000 to 8,000 feet, which provides comfort for passengers and crew. This pressure control ensures that passengers can breathe easily and that the aircraft structure also remains safe throughout the flight. The pressurization system is controlled automatically using sensors and computers to maintain the desired pressure level, even as external conditions change during climb and descent. So, by now we've grasped a few key points. First, we need a certain level of air pressure to breathe easily. As we climb higher, that pressure drops. However, if we can maintain the right pressure, breathing won't be an issue. So how does an aircraft manage this? It does so by regulating something called the outflow valve. This valve opens and closes automatically, ensuring the cabin maintains a comfortable differential pressure. So we can safely say that the proper functioning of outflow valve is critical for maintaining normal cabin pressure in an aircraft. In fact, there was a tragic crash known as the Helios crash, where the outflow valve wasn't operating correctly because it was set in the wrong position. As a result, the cabin did not pressurize properly, and both the crew and passengers slowly entered a state called hypoxia, low oxygen, which is when the body receives insufficient oxygen. In this state, a person's useful consciousness gradually fades, leading to unconsciousness and finally death. This devastating event occurred on a flight from Cyprus to Athens in 2005, and sadly, all 115 passengers and 6 crew, they all lost their lives. However, it is important to note that the Helios crash resulted from a series of errors made by multiple parties, and it's not representative of what typically happens on day-to-day flights. In modern aircrafts, if there is any issue with pressurization, the crew is immediately alerted by warning lights and warning horns in the cockpit. They have specific non-normal procedures in place, including carrying out an emergency descent. And once the emergency descent begins, it usually takes no more than 5-6 minutes to reach a safe altitude, where flying without supplemental oxygen is no longer a problem. In the event that you ever find yourself in such a situation, it's crucial to remain calm and immediately secure an oxygen mask to place it over your nose and mouth without delay. And once you've done that, it's important to continue breathing normally without panicking, as the aircraft will begin its descent to a safe altitude. Typically, once the aircraft reaches an altitude below 10,000 feet, the need for supplemental oxygen will no longer be necessary, at which point you'll be able to remove your mask and breathe comfortably again. Well, that's all for today, and I hope you found this video informative and helpful. Thanks so much for being here, and as always, happy flying and safe landings. God bless. Thank you.